Well, Laverne Gordon joining us now. She's a domestic abuse survivor and now an advocate for victims of domestic violence. Also the founder and president of Love Life Now Foundation, and also on the task force for National Domestic Violence Collaborative. Thank you so much for joining us today. Just first, what is your reaction to that video we saw that came out yesterday?
It's horrifying. I think for many of us in the field that know and recognize the signs off the bat from the body cam footage, much less for being in person talking to a victim like that, it's frustrating and it's horrifying.
So they separated the two. They had lengthy discussions with both of them. Gabby goes in the van, which is her home, and I'm told that domestic violence situations, sometimes the woman doesn't get to go back to her home. Some people think that police did the best they could in this situation. What do you say to some of those arguments?
I think that there was much more that could have been done. I think officers are doing a disservice if they're not trained on the issue of domestic violence, and to be able to respond to calls like that and having the know-how about what to look for in domestic violence victims is at utmost paramount. I mean, there were so many telltale signs, right? Oftentimes victims will not pick up the phone and call police. Here we know that someone else called the police on her behalf or their behalf, and you know, oftentimes when police do show up, it's because they don't want to fess up. They often take the blame, as Gabby did, stating that, you know, it was me, I wanted to straighten things up and I overreacted, and you know, she was hyperventilating, she was clearly distraught, versus his very calm demeanor. You know, these were all telltale signs, right? Oftentimes victims will not, you know, fess up because that abuse is present, because their fear of retaliation from their abuser once the police leaves, right? And if they don't take him away, it's because the abuser will retaliate against them and blame them for what happened, for what transpired. They often fear that they might get the abuser in trouble, right? They, you know, maybe there's a warrant out separately for them. They don't want to get them further involved with the law, and they will fear that they might take their abuser to jail when all they want is for the abuse and power and control to stop. So there were many, you know, signs about, you know, how this all went down in real time, and it's just, you know, it's really sad and frustrating for us, on, you know, again, who understand what this issue looks like from behind the scenes.
Well, yeah, and then you look at what if he does get arrested? Who foots the legal bills? Who gets the blame? How complicated all of that is.
Absolutely. If there are children involved, obviously, whether there were no children here, but the fear oftentimes there is, you know, who's going to be horrible to me, or she's horrible to me, but, you know, he takes care of the children well, or he picks them up from school, or he takes care of the household. There's all these ramifications for if something like that goes down. So oftentimes, you know, and then even before that, right, many times victims are told, you caused this, right? You're to blame. You're the reason. You're the one that attracted attention in our direction, right? So when they were outside and someone called the police on their behalf, I'm almost certain that, you know, someone is then told, or she was told that, you know, you're the one that made this happen because you were flailing and you were doing all of this, and you're the reason why police showed up to begin with. So, you know, just again, heartbreaking.
Laverne, we all saw the video the first time around. Yesterday this video comes out. What was that moment yesterday when you watched this version of that police stop that really disturbed you?
Yeah, it brought me back to my own situation, and I'm sure other survivors, it brought them back as well. When I escaped, I took myself to an ER in the mid-morning, very, very early morning hours. And a doctor came into the room and said to me, when they took x-rays, I told them that I fell in the shower, and that's why my hip, you know, was bruised, why my insides felt like it was swollen and chopped up. And the doctor immediately after they came into the room said to me, who did this to you? He immediately knew. Again, he obviously had seen this type of injury from before, but that to me is what that video screamed at for me. It brought me right back to my situation, and just wishing and hoping that the officers, the responding officers, could have done more, asked more questions, you know, prodded a little bit more, realized the scratches on the face was a sign of a struggle, and even if it was from her, that, you know, they could have been, you know, somebody could have gone down to the jailhouse,
Yeah.
right? Somebody could have been contacted right there and then, but none of that happened, and again, just disheartening.
Laverne, thank you for being so honest, being so brave, and helping us with some perspective on that difficult video.
Absolutely.
Okay.
Thank you for having
Thanks
me.
again.
All right, well,